So, the first thing that a lot of people ask about when the topic of an upgrade comes up is why should I? What do I need to? Why would I need to do that? And there actually are a number of different reasons, and part of it is based on your organization and where you are and what your circumstances are. But the main things that we see people upgrade, why they would upgrade, is to take advantage of new functionality and product enhancements. So there is actually a document that's available that details out new features and functionality in GP 2010, and since then there has actually been a release 2 of GP 2010 that has some additional functionality. So that oftentimes will be a compelling reason for organizations to upgrade their Dynamics GP system, and in this case from GP 9 or GP 10 to GP 2010. The second, and sometimes even more important, is supportability of the product. Microsoft has plans for each of their individual releases. They have a 5-year life cycle. So the support for Dynamics GP 9.0 actually ended on January 11th, 2011. And for those of you that are on GP 10, a big day is coming up in October. So support for Dynamics GP 10 actually is scheduled to cease on 10/9/2012. So it's a busy time for organizations as we get down to the end of the life cycle of an individual version of the product. Now, when we talk about supportability, what we mean is that many of you rely specifically on Socius for answering support questions and assisting you when something comes up. And then others of you actually work directly with Microsoft on support plans and so forth. And so once we pass October 9th of 2012, when the support tech at Microsoft asks us or asks you if what version you're on, and you say version 9 or you say version 10, there are going to be many cases where they're not going to be able to help you. So supportability becomes very important when you're talking about a mission-critical application like Dynamics GP. Also, another reason that people will upgrade is to improve efficiency, so you can do more with less. So as an example, in recent releases of Dynamics GP version 9 and version 2010, there have been enhancements to the product to better integrate with SharePoint. And some of the examples of where that comes into play are things like workflow functionality, so that notifications can be sent out when certain activities have occurred. It can be used for employee onboarding, vendor onboarding, a variety of different things, PO approvals. And that kind of functionality removes manual steps that may have been in place prior to. So there are, in many cases, and with most upgrades, there is the ability to actually improve efficiency within your organization. Also, integration with the Microsoft Office suite, whether that be Word or Excel or even Outlook, can provide you with greater capability to get more done in less time. And then also, another important reason why is to maintain your investment in a mission-critical application. So you've invested a considerable amount of money in this application. It plays a very important role in your organization, whether that be producing financial statements, invoicing your clients, maintaining inventory levels, managing your manufacturing process, and there's a variety of different functionalities that it provides to your organization. And so you need to maintain it so that you can take advantage of the latest functionality and that you can not put your organization in a risky position with an unsupported product. Whenever you're going to upgrade, there's a lot of things to think about, and some of these things may not be top of mind, but certainly the things you want to consider as you plan your upgrade are things like downtime. When an upgrade process takes place, the upgrade process, depending on the configuration and your system situation, can sometimes require that you take time away from your business. In other words, take the system down on a Friday so that you can do the upgrade. Or it may require that you have to do testing when you come in on a Monday morning, or a variety of different things that are going to take time away from your business. So when you're planning out something like this, you want to make sure that you're planning your upgrade around that. Also, some things that you want to make sure of is that you avoid a risk of a failed upgrade. And in many cases, what our clients actually do is they'll actually work with us on a test upgrade. And so for those of you who haven't done one of those, what that allows us to do is actually run a test upgrade for your data and your reports and your system, so that the actual live upgrade, when we take your production system to the newest version, actually is more, I won't call it a moot point, but you are more confident that any issues that may have arisen have already been addressed, whether that be you have custom reports or you have customizations to your system, your screens have been modified. All of that kind of stuff will have been tested out, and everything will be in working order so that when you do the live upgrade, it just works. And that actually can be quite a big deal. One of the things that we actually do here at Socius as part of our upgrade process is we complete what we call an upgrade questionnaire. What that questionnaire does is it allows us to get a snapshot of your existing Dynamics GP environment, whether that be infrastructure, whether that be data size of your Dynamics investment, whether that be a picture of the third-party applications or customizations that you have. And that allows us to get a better idea of what the time investment is going to be to actually upgrade you to the latest release. And one of the other things that always takes place around that same time is we talk about hardware and we talk about SQL Server upgrades. So I know that we've done a variety of upgrades of recent where we've taken clients from version 9 to GP 2010. In those situations, some of those clients are actually, we're still operating on SQL 2000. And in many of them, when we did our upgrade, we'd actually upgrade them to either SQL 2005, or many of them actually upgraded to SQL 2008. And now, SQL 2012 is being released, and so we have another option in regards to the SQL database environment that we're working with. So we have to keep in consideration, and one of the things that we'll provide for you is hardware requirements, because each version has its own set of requirements. As additional functionality gets added, whether that be with the business portal or other pieces such as SQL reporting services reports or Excel reports, you need to be aware of what the requirements are so that you can take advantage of that functionality. Another consideration that becomes very important in this process is replacing inefficient or legacy functionality. So I always look at this as whether you're doing an upgrade or whether you are moving from another ERP solution to Dynamics GP, it's always a good time to reflect on how you're doing things and maybe some of the areas where you feel like maybe you're not getting the most bang for your buck. And so in those cases, you know, it is often a good idea to look at those processes or those solutions and determine if now there might be a way that we can replace those and take better advantage of new technology or new solutions. So as an example, now that there's more functionality in integrating with SharePoint, you may decide that publishing your financial statements to SharePoint might be a more effective way than actually emailing your reports. So that's a pretty common thing as people move along through the process. Also, third-party modules. So a variety of you are probably working with things like Winsoft or McCorma, or there's just a variety of independent software vendor applications that were written for GP that you may be using. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that we have made positively sure that those applications have been upgraded and are compatible with the new solution that you would be upgrading to. And many of the third-party applications that are out there are certified by Microsoft and therefore required to update as Microsoft provides new versions and upgrades to their solution. However, there are other applications that aren't necessarily tied directly to GP, but you've got them integrated to GP, in which case you just need to do your due diligence to make sure that those applications will still function properly. One issue that we've run into consistently with our clients that are moving from GP 9 or prior is the security model inside of Dynamics GP 10 and 2010 is redesigned to be more effective, easier to set up, and so it uses a role-based task and role-based security model that's much easier to set up. However, it's a complete redesign, and because of that, you have to give time and consideration and go back and review what are the security requirements for each individual user within our application. As you probably know, when you're working with accounting or if you're working with payroll solutions, security can be very, very, very important to make sure that users within your organization have access to the functionality and the reporting information that they need without stepping across into areas where they don't have responsibility, nor should they have authority to see. Another thing to consider is custom code. Custom code is a little bit different than a third-party module because these kind of things are actually written specifically for you, typically by a software developer to address very particular niche requirements that you may have. So as an example, we have a client that we work with on a regular basis where we have done some customization work on their pricing models that they offer to their clients. And so we've done modifications to their sales order processing windows. Because we've done that, it's very important that when we go to upgrade them that we make sure that we've upgraded the custom code to be compatible with the next release of Dynamics GP. Integrations becomes very important as well. A fairly large percentage of our client base actually does some sort of integration into Dynamics GP, whether it be payroll, whether it be billing. Many people actually do things as simple as integrate journal entries from Excel. We need to make sure anytime that we do an upgrade that we test and make sure that those integrations are still valid. Integrations may fail if the data structure of the accounting system has changed in a way that has added fields or taken fields away that are a part of that integration. And so that can be very, very important. And then lastly for our considerations is reporting. Dynamics GP provides hundreds, if not thousands, of reports out of the box. However, many times those reports will be customized to fit your organization's specific requirements, and we need to make sure that if we've customized reports, again, that is pulling data from specific fields and tables inside the system, that we are still pulling the proper data from the proper places based upon that reorganization. In many cases, those reports will automatically work properly, but you always have to test them. And so we just want to make sure that all of these things are considered, and we do that as part of our due diligence when we're working with our clients to make sure that we remind you that these are the things that can make or break the success of an upgrade. Okay, so there also are budget considerations. You know, a lot of times people think, well, hey, I paid for my maintenance plan and therefore I get my upgrades from Microsoft. Well, that is only part of the story because those upgrades don't install themselves. They don't take into consideration all of the additional customized work that you may have done. And so you have to plan for consulting services that may be required to bring you to a successful upgrade. So as we've done hundreds, if not thousands, of upgrades over the years with Dynamics GP, we know that a variety of different things have to happen. There's planning sessions. So whether that be planning when we do it or how we do it, and whether we have a test environment and what the hardware configuration needs to look like, to how are we going to handle these changes because maybe now we'd like to do something different. All of that comes into play. Planning for test upgrades, and then doing a production upgrade. Those definitely come into play. And then lastly, one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is, okay, now I've upgraded, how do I take advantage of that new functionality? And therefore, we always want to build in some time for post-upgrade training and support, validating that my first check run after the upgrade or my first billing run or my financial statements are produced just like normal after I've done that upgrade. That's why the test upgrade process can become very valuable, because you've run the system through its paces so that when we do the production upgrade, your system is tested, reports are updated, integrations are functional, and it becomes more of a moot point. Another budget consideration is hardware upgrades. Like I said earlier, when you do an upgrade, the system requirements have changed. Don't just assume that what you have will work on the next version. In some cases, it will. But as you look at system requirements, what you may find is that the system requirements for version 10, recommended requirements, may become minimum requirements for GP 2010, as an example. And therefore, you want to make sure that you have done proper planning, know what your infrastructure looks like, know what the system really requires to produce output and the results that you're looking for in a timely fashion. So hardware upgrades become very, very important in our budgeting considerations. Also, server moves are oftentimes a part of the our budgeting concerns or budgeting considerations. I would say that at least a quarter of the upgrades that we do include some sort of acquisition of a new server. So we'll be moving data from an old server to a new server to upgrade. And that does bring in some other technical considerations that we'll talk about as well. So certainly bringing a new server into the picture is something that you need to consider when you're thinking about the budget for an upgrade. SQL upgrade. Like we talked about earlier, version 9 ran fine on SQL 2000. GP 2010, you should be on SQL 2005 or 2008. And if you have access to 2008 or can acquire 2008, that's the right thing to do, because that way you're going to you're going to lengthen your circle before you have to go out and purchase a SQL upgrade again. Customizations. Many times customizations need to be redone. If they're redone, that's a budget consideration as well. Depending on which customizations are done by who, they may be included in your maintenance, they may not, and certainly we need to make sure that we give that consideration. Also, you need to think about post-upgrade projects. And the best example I can think of here is the case where a new piece of functionality or a new set of modules becomes available with your upgrade, and you then want to take advantage of that. So then really your budget really needs to consider not only the upgrade, but additional projects that may follow that upgrade. And that upgrade may precipitate those additional projects based upon new functionality that you'll gain that will help your business. Okay. Hardware planning is something that we will counsel you on as well in regards to, it really all ties together with your upgrade. So the question becomes, is now a good time to upgrade my server? And even before you're doing an upgrade or in between upgrades, we want to make sure that you're always talking to us about those types of things so that we make sure that you stay compatible and you also stay forward-thinking in regards to technology so that we're maximizing the life cycle of our server and workstations that we have. We also want to ask, do our workstations meet Microsoft-supported configuration? If you ever have questions on configuration requirements for servers or workstations, you should always contact us because we'll be able to provide you with information on what the requirements are for the version of GP that you're using. Another thing to consider is, should you upgrade your SQL Server? Many times you can upgrade your accounting software without having to upgrade your SQL Server, but then sometimes that actually is a natural time for you to do both, and you can kill two birds with one stone. And so that's always something you want to be thinking about as you approach a software update. And then the last point on hardware planning is, should you upgrade from 32-bit to 64-bit? This actually is a very sensitive question right now because most of you probably that are using Dynamics GP also use FRX or have in the past. And FRX is going to be actually going out of support at the same time that GP 2010 is, or GP10, I'm sorry, GP10 is. And therefore, there is a replacement product from Microsoft called Management Reporter. So one of the big things about FRX is that it requires a 32-bit environment. So as many of you probably know, today's infrastructure really is transitioned to a 64-bit environment. And as you upgrade hardware, many of you are already upgraded or in the midst of upgrading to a 64-bit environment. And these are things that you need to take into consideration. Management Reporter is a 64-bit application. Dynamics GP 2010 is a 64-bit application as well. And so these are the kind of conversations that we need to make sure that we're discussing as we go along. But the whole Management Reporter versus FRX conversation, especially now if you're considering upgrading to GP 2010, is a very important and sensitive discussion. So with GP 2010, what client operating systems are supported? Microsoft Windows XP Service Pack 3 or later, Professional Edition. Windows Vista Service Pack 2 or later, 32-bit and 64-bit. Dynamics GP can run in a 32-bit or 64-bit environment. And that would be the Business and Ultimate editions. And then Windows 7, 32-bit and 64-bit editions for Professional and Ultimate. These are the client operating systems. Now, some of you may be running in terminal server environments, so there are additional considerations for that. But if you're working in a traditional server and workstation environment, these are the client operating systems that will be supported by Dynamics GP 2010. All right. So then, what database servers are supported? So this is where we get into the SQL Server conversation. There are 32-bit and 64-bit considerations here. So we can support Microsoft SQL Server 2012, Standard or Enterprise Edition in 32-bit. And I'll stay on the 32-bit side, Microsoft SQL Server 2008, Release 2, Service Pack 1, Standard or Enterprise Edition, Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server 2005, Service Pack 3 or later, Standard or Enterprise Edition. So on the if you're in a 32-bit environment, these are the different database servers that are supported with GP 2010. On the 64-bit side, you can see that SQL Server 2012, Standard or Enterprise, SQL Server 2008 R2, Service Pack 1, Standard or Enterprise, Microsoft SQL Server 2008 Service Pack 1 or later, that's the release 1, and then Microsoft SQL Server 2005 Service Pack 3. Some of this can get kind of complicated. One of the things that's going to be really important for you to pay attention to is even if I go to SQL Server 2008 or 2005, you also have to pay attention to the Service Pack levels as well. And then lastly, so far we've talked about workstations, we've talked about SQL Server, and now what we'll talk about is actually the server operating system that we support with GP 2010. So on the 32-bit side, Windows Server 2008 Service Pack 2 or later, Standard or Enterprise, Microsoft Windows Server 2003 Release 2, Standard or Enterprise, and Microsoft Windows Server 2003 Service Pack 2 or later, Standard or Enterprise. So those are the 32-bit server operating systems that are supported with GP 2010. And then on the 64-bit side, you have Server 2008 R2 Service Pack 1 or Server 2008 Service Pack 2, or the two options you can see around Server 2003 R2 or SQL or Windows Server 2003 Service Pack 2 or later. And so again, make sure that you pay attention. Are we going to have a 32-bit or 64-bit environment? What version of SQL? What version of and what Service Pack level are we on? Will help make this process go really much smoother. So if you have any questions on the server, workstation, or SQL Server requirements, please make sure that you ask us for those. Lisa or any of our people here at Socius will be glad to provide that information for you. All right. So what isn't supported with Dynamics GP 2010? So with GP 2010, support ends for SQL Server 2000. And that is probably the most commonly faced issue we have when people upgrade to GP 2010, is that they are on SQL Server 2000. So you're going to need to upgrade, and the lion's share of our clients have been upgrading to SQL Server 2008 or 2008 R2, and as you know, SQL Server 2012 has been released. No longer will we be supporting Microsoft Office XP or Office 2003. So any of you that use SmartList as an example and output that to Office, to Excel, or Word, we are now compatible with Office 2007 and 2010. Internet Explorer 6.0 is no longer supported, and Adobe Acrobat 6 and 7 are no longer supported. My understanding is Adobe Acrobat's latest version is 10. Windows Explorer, we obviously have 7 or 8. and you know about Office and SQL Server. This actually is an important topic and an area where you really have to pay attention and make sure that you're willing to upgrade to avoid risk, because ultimately we want to make sure that your system works at the highest level with the least amount of risk. And when I say risk, I want to make sure that you have the ability to get the highest level of support and service when issues arise, and if you're using an outdated operating system, if you're using an outdated version of Office or Explorer, those kind of things can get in your way and slow you down from being productive. So we got a couple other things that we're going to talk about. SQL or Dynamics GP 2013 is on the horizon. And so that's to be released at the end of this year as well. Dynamics GP 2013 will not support Windows XP. It will not support Office 2007, so you'll need to be on Office 2010. It will not support Internet Explorer 7.0 or SQL 2005. So as you can see, 2010 supported some environments that are not going to be supported by GP 2013. Are they on?
I mean, I can turn it on.
Okay.
But you're going to do it.
Well, I think I'm like I'm on speaker on my phone. Everybody's still there. Okay. Sorry for the trouble. I think our phone system went down while we were in the middle of this conversation. And so I'm just, you're going to have to bear with me. I'm actually talking from my cell phone. The next thing we were going to cover is actually the pre-upgrade steps. So from a pre-upgrade steps perspective, first of all, we need to prepare your company data. And that preparing company data, really what that means is making sure that we do some of the utilities that we should do on a regular basis, including check links and reconciliation process. We should remove unused companies. And so if you have a company database that's no longer in use, then you can eliminate that and make sure it's not part of your upgrade plan. Prepare a test environment. And this is a big recommendation because we certainly want to make sure that you do prepare your test environment. And we'll recommend a test upgrade in most cases. Plan for downtime. We talked about downtime before, and we can't emphasize it enough because we want to make sure that we set up this timing for this project at an appropriate business cycle for you. So we certainly don't want to do this in the middle of a billing cycle or a big pay run or, a busy business cycle. We want to make sure we work through that. We want to update and test all custom code. That would be part of the process. And sometimes that requires some additional time and planning, depending on who we're working with on the custom code. In FRX, we want to remove any additional or any unused rows, columns, and trees in catalog. So any of you out there that are FRX users know what I mean, because oftentimes it's easy to set them up and then you don't use them all. And this will be important because as part of the GP 2010 upgrade, we're going to be migrating those reports to Management Reporter. We need to obtain the appropriate registration keys. So new registration keys will come with each version, and we want to make sure that we do that. And then the last item that we have listed here is run pre-upgrade reports. This process is very, very, very important because what we want to do as an insurance policy is we want to make sure that we are able to compare our typical reports such as aging, GL trial balance, inventory stock status before and after the upgrade, because those numbers should be the same and we want to make sure that they are. That is just another insurance policy and allows us to, that just allows us to then validate the data once it's been upgraded. Okay. So how should we prepare for an upgrade? Again, are there any companies that need to be removed? And if there are, if you're not using them, if the data is not valid, you don't need it any longer, then that can be removed and taken off the upgrade list, and oftentimes means less consulting and less work for you. Before you upgrade, you should post, delete, or print all single-use batches. We recommend that you post all transactions that can affect your purchase receipt. So, in other words, get all of the work that you can out of the way. We also understand that you'll have recurring batches, for instance, in payables or GL, and you don't need to take those out, but we certainly want to make sure that any single-use batches that you have are posted. You should make at least one complete backup of all your databases before upgrading. It's a good idea to make a backup before completing table maintenance procedures in case you encounter any problems in that process. And then print print your comparison report. But this whole backup process is really, really important, because what we want to make sure of is if we encounter anything that is a go, no-go decision, that means no-go, then we want to be able to put you right back where you were so that we can retrench and replan the upgrade. So run check links on all companies. And a lot of people are confused. Either they don't use check links because they don't know what it is, or they maybe know that they've seen it, or they do it, but they don't know exactly what it does. So the check links process analyzes the relationship between the different physical files that exist in, between the physical files to find data that exists in one file but is missing from another. As an example, I may be posting an invoice in accounts payable. That information will update the open payables table. It will also update a master summary table. So in other words, I post an invoice for $100, I'll also see that update my year-to-date column in my summary. And so we want to make sure that those tables stay in sync. And so we want to make sure that we run check links. And this is a process that should be run every so often, because it will actually either add to certain tables or remove from certain tables to make sure everything is clean. A report is printed after the check links process is complete, regardless if data is missing. If data is missing and can be replaced, the data is replaced automatically. So you can see that this check links process does a lot of work to make sure that your data remains in a clean state. What does Socius do when they come on site? We back up, and we back up, and maybe back up again. Again, I don't want to overemphasize it, but on the other hand, I don't want to underemphasize it, how important that backing up your system can be. So when we go through an upgrade process, we're going to make sure that we appropriately back up your system throughout the process to make sure that we can roll back anytime we need to. We also will follow Microsoft best practices for performing those upgrades, and we do have a methodology that we follow to make sure that it goes smoothly. So our goal is to perform your production upgrade with as little interruption to your schedule as possible. And that's especially important for those of you when you do an upgrade that do not do a test upgrade. So how do we accomplish that? We have a task list. Many times, like it's on GP10, when we're going to upgrade to 2010, we have to upgrade to a particular service pack. So we'll install the service pack on the current version if it's required. I think in GP10 it might be service pack 5. GP data update. Install and update all the third-party modules. Install any custom code. Update modified forms and reports. So if you've modified into reports in GP using the report writer, or use the modifier to modify your screen, or Excel reports, we'll make sure that the life cycle of FRX that we are going to update use management reporter, as that is really the risk-free way to move forward. If we're moving to a new server, we're going to remap all your shared files and set up database maintenance and backup plans to make sure that once we've done this upgrade, we just keep on moving. And a lot of that should then ultimately be invisible to you as a user. And then we'll do key user workstation updates. We are going to ask you to take a role in this. So we're going to ask you to do acceptance testing. So we're going to print post-upgrade reports and compare to the pre-upgrade reports like I talked about. We're going to test all custom code. We're going to test all custom reports, and we're going to test all integrations. And frankly, we may ask you to just go through and run a payables invoice or a batch of invoices or enter a journal entry and post it through and do all those things in your test environment to make sure that nothing has gone astray. And it shouldn't, but we just want to make sure it's our insurance policy to make sure that everything is in good working order. And then we'll roll it out to the users. We'll update workstations, We're also going to do what's new training for our users. And like I said, there is documentation available on Customer Source that you can download that has all of the information you would need on system requirements and on what are the new features. But we do take on responsibility to teach your folks what's new so that when you move to the new updated system, you're taking advantage of the appropriate functionality. And then we also provide go-live support. We want you to feel comfortable that you have someone to turn to once you've updated so that you, in case something comes up, you'll have us to turn to and talk to about it. Post-upgrade projects. We talked about this a little earlier. The idea of post-upgrade projects is that there may be opportunities for either process improvements, new module functionality, new feature functionality, maybe an opportunity to audit your security setup, and also upgrading FRX management reporter like we've talked to. So an upgrade from GP10, 9 or 10 to GP 2010 could lead to a variety of additional projects that we work on together. And as you can see on this slide, what we have here is the Dynamics GP10 2010 system requirements and an update to GP10 hot topic page. Okay, so as someone getting ready to move into GP 2010, these links will give you some additional information and hopefully comfort that you're making a good decision when you go to GP 2010. All right, so I went through a lot of information, a lot of things for you to consider, and I certainly want to make sure that we get all of your questions answered, either today, so you can raise your hand and ask any questions, and Lisa will field those questions, and I'll try to and any questions that you expect area.
You have to type those under the question section. I don't see any. We'll wait a minute or two, but while we're waiting, just so everyone knows, the slide deck for this presentation is going to be available out on our website, and all the attendees will receive a link, I believe, to where they can access that. So that will be available. I know we did have a couple of people ask that question, and it will be available. And still no question. You did such a good job there, no questions. But just a couple of updates on my end. A couple of updates on my end. The next webinar that we're going to have is on the Professional Services Tools Library, and that's scheduled for September 20th at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. So we hope that many of you will attend that as well. Those professional tools are now, there used to be a charge for the tools, and those are all free. That may be something that many of you may want to take advantage of some of those. And then last but not least, our Aspire conference is going to be on October 23rd. And this year we are moving locations. We're going to be at the Hyatt downtown by the Convention Center. And we did open registration up on August 1st. So you can go out and take a look at the agenda, and hopefully we will get many of you to register for that as well. The website for that is www.socius1.com/aspire. So, and on all of our email addresses too, there should be a link that will take you right to the registration as well. But if anyone has questions about Aspire or anything we've talked about today, feel free to contact Jeff or myself or the account manager at Socius that you work with. And let me check for questions. No questions.
Okay, well, hopefully this gave you some, at least some food for thought in regards to upgrading. And my recommendation would be to please step forward and contact us in regards to starting to plan some dates for your upgrade. As the support window for GP10 is shrinking, and we want to make sure that our staff has capacity to make sure that we can take care of your upgrade and get you to GP 2010. So if any other questions come up, feel free to reach out to us. We will absolutely be glad to help you, and we appreciate your time very much. Thank you.